All right, well, thanks everyone for taking the time to join us again. Like, I know we've had quite a bit of good feedback about the webinars, so it's good that me and George can kind of keep putting them on and having people come in and share their thoughts on different topics we kind of put out there and put forward to them. So I know this is kind of a part two from last week when both Ronnie and Ellis were on. Kind of we're going to stick with a similar theme, but obviously not cover exactly the same things. So Ronnie's going to kind of kick us off with some thoughts and experiences around CPD and courses and link that to his experiences within networking. So I'm just going to basically share my screen now with a slide that we're going to look at. All right, so everyone should be able to see that now. So yeah, Ronnie, I mean, we'll kick off with yourself and just look at basically some of the stuff that you were mentioning earlier about the benefits that you've kind of experienced from courses you've attended and people that you've networked with from that.
In terms of my experiences with the networking and courses, I suppose my coaching really took off from that first or the second course that I did take part in, which was my FA level 2, and that was at Durham FA. And when I was during my assessments, I met a guy called Liam Leckie, who was the FA educator at the time. And I didn't know him before we kind of went on the course. So we kind of discussed a few points as we went through the course. And then he assessed my coaching session. And obviously at the end of that coaching session, he identified that I had the potential maybe to become a coach and to go and coach in different areas. So he offered me a chance to go and work for, at the time it was Newcastle Community Football. So I took him up on that offer. And again, I mean, it goes back to what we spoke about in terms of meeting people, networking people. So kind of just meeting him initially during this course, having brief discussions, and then obviously once he's assessed myself in the course, he's give me that opportunity to go and coach for the community football, and from there I met a guy called Doug Thorburn. I think I briefly spoke about Doug last week when we were on, and again, networking again and building up those links between each other. I spoke to Doug about possibly going to a few of his sessions. He was a coach at the Newcastle United Academy at the time with the under 10s. And again, he had no problems with that, so I just went along, watched a few sessions, and again, just networked and built up a little bit of a rapport with Doug, and with working with him in the community football, so he knew in terms of what I could deliver, and also as I spoke to before, Doug's he's a strong character. He doesn't suffer fools gladly. And again, it's kind of that building that rapport between each other, and I suppose that trust between each other, that I'm not going to kind of take the mick, if you like, and just I wanted to learn. He knew I wanted to learn, and he gave me that opportunity to go along and watch some sessions, which was good. So again, it all came from that course, and that very initial first course. Opportunity arose from it, and took it really, in terms of how it went from there.
And just on that one, because I know you were mentioning when we spoke previous, like about the assessment and the assessment tutor, that kind of created a further opportunity for you.
Yeah, so in terms of that assessment, so Ian identified that I had the skills required to coach and deliver, good quality sessions, which is kind of what we all hope to produce the majority, if not all of the time. So again, just that initial assessment and being identified, but again, it came from and it wasn't just the initial assessment. I believe it was a combination of the, identified that I had the ability, but I also had the communication skills, the appearance, what we spoke about, and so all those kind of little fine details that everyone needs within, not just within the coaching sessions, but within their lives as well. So again, it's not just a case of kind of going out there and deliver a session. It's making sure that all the little details are in place with it as well.
Great. I think we've thrown becoming a student down on there. I think you've touched on that well. Like when you come across as being genuinely interested in becoming better and not just wanting to kind of connect with someone because they're popular within a certain club, I'm sure it goes a long way with that person or coaches.
Absolutely, yeah.
I guess a question from me there, Ronnie, is how many people, across the coaching courses that you've taken, do you still keep in contact with? Is it quite a large number, or is it specific people on each course? I mean,
it's quite interesting, the amount of people that you do come across through these courses. So again, it's not just going on there and delivering sessions. It's actually kind of meeting up with people and having similar types of kind of rapport with each other. And again, it's absolutely. I mean, I've met quite a number of people. To be fair, I'm not very good with names, because I do come across that many people. But whenever we kind of, you recognize somebody that you've been on the course with, and you can have that, rapport with. I mean, I've met, as again, I've done my youth award a number of years ago. There was coaches from all over the country, and built up a good rapport with one of the coaches from Manchester United. So again, we've kind of shared ideas, and we keep in touch with each other. And he's a similar type of background from myself. He works in college in sports. So again, we have that little bit of rapport. So again, it's a lot of people I've met on these courses, and I think it's very important that you do keep in touch with these people, not just to kind of use them, but to kind of, everyone can share ideas. Everyone's got things to offer each other, and it's important.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest points. You're talking about sharing ideas.
Yeah.
See, like you said, you meet so many people with so many different ideas and philosophies on football, and they're all in different clubs. I mean, to be able to collaborate with lots of different people, must be awesome.
I think that's the most important thing, George, in terms of sharing ideas for me, because I don't think we're kind of everyone's picked up these ideas and built on them as they've gone through. So they've got them from somewhere. So it's important that we do share them, and it's not just a kind of, it's mine, you're not going to get it kind of thing. It's important that we do kind of help other coaches, and somebody might pick up on something that we've got and develop that and improve it if they can.
Yeah.
So it's very, don't underestimate the how important it is to share ideas and to keep, giving the whatever you've got for people, in terms of coaching sessions, in terms of what your own experience is. Very important that we do that. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
That's from a teaching background as well, I suppose. Coming from a teaching background, I know how important it is to develop that and push that.
Great. Does anyone want to jump in with any questions they've got? We'll kind of just do it throughout the webinar for Ronnie, based on what he's just touched on. No. If needed, you can also use like the chat box as well, and we can kind of look at if anyone's put questions in the chat box. We can kind of connect with them later on in the webinar. So I'll just go on to the next slide. And I know Nick's going to touch on this as well, but I know Ronnie had a couple of things that you just wanted to elaborate on kind of from his
Yeah,
the previous?
yeah. So in terms of the first impressions, again, with Ian, we level 2 coach educator, making a good first impression with Ian. Very important to do that. In terms of, again, I think Lloyd, you'll kind of back me up on this one. You worked at the college with me. In terms of making a first impression for players, for coaches that come in, it's very, very important in terms of that. And if you, just as an example, if you remember the notice boards that we had for,
Yeah.
So in a bit of a pain in terms of, keeping them updated and keeping the information updated in there. But so important to the first impression of people that enter the college environment. Away teams as well. So when away teams come in and they see that, and it's kind of, it gives a professional outlook in terms of what you have and what you're kind of delivering. As much, like I said, it's a bit of a pain every week, kind of having to update that board, if you like. But it's little things like that, and it's little details like that. It's so important to make sure that you keep maintaining, and your staff and everyone that works with you is kind of behind you on that as well, which you were, Lloyd, and
Sure.
it was so beneficial for everyone.
It was almost like, just going on that first impression with you, the assessment tutor, it was as if that was like kind of a, without you knowing, like a bit of an interview. Not that maybe Ian was looking to recruit, but all of a sudden that led you into a coaching role.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt, and I think everything leads from that as well. So in terms of, I know you've spoke about in terms of asking questions, communications, likable, being humble. I think all of those kind of integrate themselves into you as not just a person, but you as a coach, and that comes out, and I'm sure players can, if the one players that you're coaching can take from that, and they can see that. And again, the knowledge that players have these days in terms of other coaches, and they can, somewhat, they're quite knowledgeable in terms of what they know, and they can kind of pick a fool out pretty quickly, I would, these days.
Sure.
But in terms of, like you say, the communication skills, it was, I mentioned Doug Thorburn before, really strong character. When I first met him, he gives that impression that he's unbreakable, like, if you like, and you don't cross him, and which is fine, and it kind of builds up that. I think it was maybe, and I've got to say, for the younger coaches, it's one of those communication things. I think it comes a little bit more with confidence, and having the ability and trust in yourself to know that you can ask the right questions, and the questions that you're asking from coaches, that they are the right questions at the right time. So again, communication with Doug, I built up a rapport with him, watched his sessions, and I did question about a few of his sessions, asked him questions about it. Having that ability to ask the right questions, and that again maybe links into that likability. So maybe he's like me enough to give me those answers. So again, it's things, everything about it, though. It's all about building it up.
Yeah,
it's not just
like about the asking the right questions, isn't it? Because like, without particularly going into a detailed conversation, like as soon as you ask a question that's related to what they've done, it just shows that you've been engaged and thinking as they've been coaching. And I know Andrew kind of asked a question in the chat there about what do you find most valuable from networking at events? And then he suggested, is it coaching courses? Is it the ideas you can get from others? Is it opportunities that can kind of be led on from the courses themselves? Is there one particular thing that stands out, or is it a combination?
I think it is. It's a combination of, like you say, you're picking up these ideas, and when you do go on these courses, there's a lot to take in. There is a lot of information comes in. Sometimes a little bit information overload, but it's important that you kind of you're able to filter that maybe in terms of what's going to be required for you as a coach. What do you need at that particular time? That's going to benefit you as a coach. So it's important that you do, if you go on these courses, you may only pick a few things up, one or two things, but it's important that those few things are going to benefit you and help develop you as a coach and as a person as well, So it's important that you look for that. But yeah, I mean, the big thing from me from courses is kind of, meeting other coaches and discussing some of the I mean, I'm not kind of having to go to the courses, but some of the best ideas you get off is when you kind of sitting down with other coaches and you kind of having chats with each other and you're picking ideas up, and so but again the course facilitates that and gives you that opportunity to do that. So important that you do kind of use that.
Great. No, I appreciate that. We'll move on to Nick. I know he's got a big plan for this as well. So, Nick, do you want to kind of follow on?
Yeah, mate, thanks for having us on. Ronnie, excellent stuff there. There's a lot we could touch on and make this even longer. But one thing I will kind of mention is we've all been on those coaching courses where, I say the good and the bad and the ugly. We know the ones that we actually connected with over that time of the course. And I would say my biggest thing that I think I did well, and I think those that I connected with, was don't act like you know everything. Like, ask questions, even if let's say you know the answer, but ask the questions, but listen. Don't interrupt. Don't just keep going back and forth on your opinionated. I mean, that's a good discussion, but I think you'll get more, like you said, being a sponge and getting ideas and making your own, but listen. And I think that's one of the that's any relationship, and you keep going back to Ronnie being a good person in life. It's just be a good listener. But for me, touch with Lloyd a little bit. From my perspective, I thought it'd be good just to touch on from, I guess, the employment side, right? So I'm looking for coaches, I'm looking for directors, etc., within my club for the last 7.5 years now. And even though I don't want to touch too much on first impression, CV, cover letter, so many people still get it wrong, and it baffles me. And I'll be completely honest, when I see a bad cover letter, or if someone just sends me a CV, I'm deleting that email right away. If you don't make a connection with me or my club or my organization, philosophy, vision, or why this might be a good fit for you, I'm not spending the time reading. I mean, I get probably 10 a week. I know it's probably not a lot, but it's 10 that I definitely will read. But first impressions are massive. And I just took some little notes with Lloyd. He was like, make it real, make it emotional, take notes. I've never sat with anyone that actually takes notes and then use that throughout your interview, right? So something I might say early on in my introduction, take note of it and then bring it back into the conversation later. So there's a lot of things there, but a lot of people still get it really so wrong. But I will tell one quick story, which I think is a great story to touch on Ronnie's and mine. Is I had a coach come to me my first year with this club, Serbian guy, very, very poor English, and he'd done his research. He came up to me, well, he emailed me first, he met me at the field. He was able to tell me my playing background, my coaching background. He could tell my ideas and philosophy, and he's like, I want to learn from you. So obviously he's going to build up my ego a little bit as well and go, okay, this guy's really interested. So he volunteered for about 6 months just watching me, and then I kind of pushed him off to other coaches to learn different age groups and different levels and abilities of coaching. And out of nowhere, 2 teams popped up in the spring for him to come in part-time. After that, he came full-time, 4 teams, and within 5 years, he went from having 0 licensing to his A license last year, and he's now a full-time technical director at the club, and he's been absolutely outstanding. So it can happen so quick, and like, Ronnie, you touched on as well, just being that good person and building that trust and, the likability, doors will open for you. They sure will.
Yeah, no, it's important about that, doing that homework bit as well, isn't it? Because you only get one first impression, of course. So in terms of the communication skills, is there anything that kind of you have as a kind of a personal to you that you'll make sure that you kind of use when connecting with other people?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm always saying it to our staff is like, I think I do a good job is giving them a voice, and again, me being a better listener. And I've had to learn that over time, in this position as well. But like one thing I did struggle with was as a DOC, after 2 years, I stopped coaching teams and just focused on what a DOC is, right? Director of coaching. And I would be on the field every day of the week with the coaches. And I felt it was very difficult to have the conversation of that constructive criticism. And the ones that I struggled with was the ones that always had an answer back. And like, it's hard to explain, but when you go, I mean, I had my A license at this stage and I'm very experienced, whatever. I know in my head why they might have done that or might have picked this session or this, whatever it might be. But again, it's they want to turn it into, well, I did it because it is. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think just listen, and then it will make me more kind of, more willing to work with you and that. But if you're going to always combat everything, I'm not saying I know everything. That is by far the truth. But when I started out, it was like I wanted to instill a philosophy in what we were as a club. And that was the hardest thing for me to get across. Now, over time, we've done a great job of it as a team. But if you're in that role and you've someone coming, like, it's body language, right? Don't throw your eyes up to heaven. Don't turn around, turn your back to them. Just listen, go, got it? Yeah, sound, whether you agree with it or not. And then maybe you revisit that next week and go, listen, Nick, when you were talking about X, Y, and Z, the reason I did it was because of this, and this is what I seen. And then now it opens discussion. And it opens my eyes. I've had some coaches do that, and I went, oh, I like that. Yeah, I'm going to take that. You're spot on. So being able to listen, again, we did an exercise in the office years ago on the five differing listening skills. And we had it on the board every time. And the biggest one, guess what it is, Lloyd? Can you think of what it might be?
Go on, I'll let you
What does
share.
everyone do in this game?
Yeah.
Huh?
Did you say best listening skill?
Well, no, one of the biggest issues when it comes to listening.
Probably trying to listen to respond rather than listen to understand.
Yeah, and interrupting. And I would watch some of our staff, younger ones, they get interrupted and they would just shut down and then they wouldn't speak again. So we had to work through that. So listening to me is number one. And again, there's so many ways to do that. But yeah, I know that was a long-winded answer.
Not good.
I think that bit that you mentioned there, listening and then being able to discuss after is so important. I think, it touches a bit on what Ronnie said as well earlier about opening those discussions, but especially if you as a DOC, trying to help the younger coaches, educate them. And then, like you said, you can get stuff back from them too if you are having open discussions with each other, which is important. Obviously, everyone sees the game differently, and that's kind of how we all then learn and develop. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, and it's a real conversation, right? You're not just coming back telling me what you know at the game. You're listening to what I'm saying and then ask questions on that. And like we all know, when someone asks you a question on your experience or your playing, or whatever it might be, you want to respond, and then it becomes an emotional connection. You're like, okay, this guy's actually interested, or this girl is actually interested in what I'm talking about, and it kind of, the conversation will flow much better. And I think you're right. It's the hardest thing to do is to listen, not think about your answer, and actually really take in the details of what's been spoken about.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, can I just add in there as well? So great points made in terms of communication. I think someone has just put on there in terms of a question about it's a natural reaction to kind of be defensive when somebody kind of maybe is kind of questioning, or maybe he's not questioning, but having a little discussion about why you've done this. And it goes back to what I said before when I first started coaching with Doug, and having that ability to kind of communicate in the right way. But I think the biggest thing from it is kind of your ego as well. Yeah. So you're not going to get everything right, and everyone's got an opinion on you, and everyone's got an opinion on what you're doing. That's that. Whether we like it or not, whether it's the kind of beauty of football, really, because even the ones that haven't coached before in their life have got an opinion on it, whether it's right or wrong or what, So I think the biggest thing is not having your ego, and not having a big enough ego to say that somebody's questioning you. Well, maybe they've got another idea and something else that they can develop in another way. So it's I think that's something you learn through maybe as experience as well. So something you pick up as you go through coaching in life. That everyone's going to have and again, that likability, what we mentioned from that as well, whether somebody likes you or not, it's not your problem if they don't like you, and if they do like you, well, that's still, it is what it is, so yeah. But the big thing for me, from that is not let your ego get in your way of you.
Yeah.
Ronnie.
Yeah, I mean, again, before I maybe put a couple more questions to Ronnie and Nick, if anyone wants to jump in, feel free to unmute yourself and throw a question at either.
I guess just I'll go on. Just touched on the likability you were talking about. Then obviously not everyone's going to like you, as a coach or a person. You can't do much about that. But how do you think there's any ways as a coach you can increase your likability? When you're networking and trying to connect with different people, whether it's at courses, events, or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one, it's like anything. When Ronnie touched on the notices in the dressing room, it's hard work. You have to be willing to actually work at it and go, and ask yourself, sit back and evaluate like you do as a coach and go, well, why do you think so-and-so is acting a certain way? I think you got to put the work in. You got to constantly, we talk at our club a lot about professional development, but personal development is huge. And if you can't see why certain things are happening in your life, ups and downs, whatever it might be, you need to step back and go, okay, I must be doing something wrong here. It's not always their fault. And I think a lot of people, again, are very easy to point the finger. So it's hard work. It's grafting.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyone want to add?
I know there's a few messages coming in the chat here, which is great. So there's it's great because there's a few key things that it kind of circles back to. So the one Nick just mentioned about listening to understand rather than respond. I know personally sometimes when you're so enthusiastic about maybe sharing something or maybe pinging like a million questions like you're on question time can kind of backfire against you and almost hinder that relationship you're trying to build with said coach or coaches. And actually like looking and actually thinking about what they're saying and maybe saying it over in your head can actually be, well, a lot more beneficial. And all of a sudden, again, bit going back to what Nick said about, and Ronnie, about you kind of make mental notes. So if it's not in an interview where you might be able to make actual written notes, you might be able to make mental ones, albeit taking a little bit more effort. It is graft, but it'll pay dividends, I guess, in the end with that person. By showing an interest and kind of using a follow-on question that relates to what they're saying or what they've shown in their coaching practice.
Yeah, I think my video's gone off here, but the point I'm going to make here is when I've found in terms of more so coaching with my college students, 16, 17, 18-year-old lads, they're not really bothered about kind of what qualifications you've got, what knowledge you've got. Basically, and you kind of get that likability, if you like, again, from caring for people. So all they want to know really is, do you care for them? Do you actually want to look after them and make them not just better players, but kind of people as well? And that's the big thing that I've found in terms of kind of how to communicate with people, how to get that kind of, if you like, likability. But just that, yeah, very important that you get that across, and people can see that quite easily.
Nick, there was a question then relates to a bit more about the mentions on CV. You said earlier, what are the biggest mistakes that you see with people's CVs?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm talking personal, but just from what I do and the kind of people I want around me personally and around my club. And like the first one is a lot of them will just send the CV with no cover letter. I'm not joking, I just delete it. I'm not interested. If you can't make the effort to do that, I'm gone. If it comes in a cover letter which is all about you, where you've been, what you've done, what you can do, I'll read it, but I'm still now I'll look at your CV, but I'm still a little bit now going, I haven't put on our club philosophy, our mission statement, whatever it might be. And I always, I respond to everybody pretty much, unless it's literally just a CV. But I'll always say, you know, if you want to come in or do a phone call interview, is to make sure not only is the club a good fit for you, but you're a good fit for the club. But I mean, I hate to say it's easy for me, but I do feel I'm able to, like Ronnie kind of said, you can pick them out, who's the right one with the egos and that, and just off an email you can ruin it. And sometimes I would say is, don't send a CV, send a cover letter, just an email, talking about the club, a little bit of history, breakdown, and maybe of whoever the DOC might be, of their personal journey. Maybe stick a question in there, leave your CV off, and if I'm interested, then I'm going to ask you for your CV. I personally as well, qualifications are important, experience is important, but it's not the be all and end all. So if you have something else that you've done in your life, whether it's volunteering, down the park, whatever it might be, something that makes you a better person, then you're kind of you're clutching onto me a little bit emotional in that regard. And that's just a personal thing for me. That's how I would look at it. I hope that answers it. Who sent that in? Scott? No. James. I hope that answers it, James.
Yeah, and Murray's mentioned there about empathy and being obviously empathetic, which is huge and probably touches on most people's coaching philosophies. I know personally it does with me. Yeah, no, I mean, there's some really good comments here. I'm just quickly reading through them.
I guess you, Nick, just to follow up, you touched on it a little bit, about your club culture, vision, philosophy. I mean, how important is that, when you are introducing yourself to a DOC or someone high up in the club and you're, asking for, potential opportunities? I mean, where would you put it on the list of things to include?
I mean, for me, it's massive because, I mean, we're downtown Chicago. My goal was always to be the club for the city, which is a lot of community give back, a lot of volunteer hours, just being a good person. But then also, as much as I want, and we've had a few coaches move on into college and things like that, which is fantastic, I'm still looking for someone that's going to give me a good 5, 6, 7 years. That I don't want coaches coming in and out the door. And we've done that. We actually have coaches that, for example, Slavo went on to his A license. He was, and I was in the same position. I wanted to be a DA coach. I wanted to go back to England, academy and all that. I just realized it wasn't for me. And I think it was Ellis touched on it last week, maybe. And Slavo kind of got an introduction to it, and then he kind of pulled away from it. It's like, no, this is a bigger picture here. We're doing more for the care of the kids, the care of the community. It's not like, I was saying to Lloyd before I come on, I'm in a position right now, I'm 36. I don't really care about results on a soccer field or what players I'm missing, this, that, and the other. Now, that's my technical director's role, so it's not mine. But I'm all about the bigger picture now. And if you come to me and you see that bigger picture, which not everybody does right away, but if you can show me that you have an understanding somewhat of who we are, and you've maybe made a few phone calls to other clubs to ask them, what do you know about these guys? What do you know about Nick? What do you know about Chicago City? And be able to come into a conversation or email with that. It is, I will say, it's the top of my list, mate. 100%. I've made some mistakes with coaches where they come in with either the higher license, but then just didn't fit in, or they come in with no license and just really struggle, because we do have a very qualified and experienced staff. So I've made both mistakes on both ends of it, and I learned from it, So it's I will say it's the number one thing I always go back to, of how we've been so successful in 7 years, going from 85 kids to 650 and a satellite out in the suburbs, was the staff. I invested in the staff, I care about the staff, and I developed the staff, and they're all on board, and we do a great job together. And tune into our morning show, 8 a.m. on Wednesday, you'll see.
Just plug that in there.
Yeah. Started last week. But no, yeah, great question, George. Really like that. That's a good one.
Awesome. Great answer. Thank you.
One from Darren, guess open both, is like, how do you ensure there's a consistent approach to your philosophy throughout the club? And I know both have worked in the club's games, so.
There you go, Ronnie.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I think your own philosophy, you kind of pick up, and you have that from the start. But I think the thing with the philosophy is sometimes you have to change it as well. Be prepared to kind of add things into it. So again, I mean, from when I first started coaching, to where I am now. It's important that you have that philosophy, your own philosophy, and you can change that. In terms of the club where I'm working now, there's a philosophy in terms of the club and where we are and where we're moving. That might change, with the way things are going at the minute, but who knows? But at the moment, there's a philosophy there, and it's a strong. It's led by the leaders within the club as well. So there's a kind of strong leadership, strong kind of philosophy with what they want from us as coaches and the players, and it's important that everyone's has that philosophy, and everyone's kind of moving in the same direction with it as well, as a club. So it's important that you have that. Again, you take that as well. So I've kind of moved that with me college as well. So the philosophy I have at the college is slightly different from what we have at the Newcastle where I work. But it's the same principles. I think the same principles apply within that. And it's important that those philosophies, again, like I said, you might need to tweak one or two little bits as you move along, as you experience kind of what the coaching pathway is, what it entails, and again, what you pick up from along the way. But again, it's important that everybody in the club kind of buys into that in terms of the philosophy.
Well, Ronnie, let me piggyback on that, because again, I think it's a massive thing. It does evolve. Every year we've changed something that is a bit more of a priority. Like when I first came in, it was all about winning, elitist, get the best kids in. And then when that doesn't happen, it's like, okay, what about the rest of the club? And what I've done is, and I said it earlier, was you got to give your staff a voice. And we do a lot of workshops that I'll lead or I'll bring someone else in. And it's just putting it up on the board every year and going, right, where have we had success? Where are we struggling? And like I'll be honest, like the last 2 years, we've got a lot of negative feedback that our second tier level teams don't feel as loved as the rest of them. But we're across the board. It is even, but it's the perception. So we were like, well, we've got to change the perception. And I know every coach does care. They all have a full-time coach, but I think giving your staff that voice over time as well, they start to grow into it. And I've watched it with our staff over 6-7 years, and it's been great. And I'm happy to go, you know what, I didn't think of that. That's a great idea. And that's me again trying to be a better listener all the time too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and in terms of the college football where I teach and where I coach as well, it's important that, like you say, everyone has to be in it. And although we know there's different level players, different standard players, everybody has to feel part of that. And I'm sure Lloyd, from his experience would kind of back us up on that. That when I first arrived there, actually, there was like an elitist team and there was one other team, and there wasn't a connection there. So I had to kind of try, and I've built that up over the 6-7 years I've been there now, and we have a good core. We've got 4 teams there now, women as well, and they're all kind of connected. They all have an identity to the college, and it's important that we kind of continue that, continue developing that. But yes, in terms of it's massive. Everyone being together, that's the one thing that will drive a club forward. That'll drive any club forward. It's being together, everyone, and not having like little fractions in there. So very important. Yeah, not to be underestimated. That above anything.
It's fantastic. I think it's key, isn't it, having that buy-in from everyone. We talk about the coach-player relationship, but the coach to coaches, like you say, equally, if not even more important. And I guess that circles back into how you network, to be not with new people, but actually your colleagues and those above you as well as those in and around you, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, I mean, more than happy to continue. If anyone else has got any questions that what they want to kind of piggyback and add on to, then feel free. But I'll kind of leave it open for a minute or so, and go from there.
Al Bowers has got a question. Bubbling up over there.
Greg, do you want to add anything? No.
He's speechless for once.
Yeah, well, I'll just want to take the chance to thank both Ronnie and Nick for giving us a real good webinar. Basically, they've been fantastic. As always, we'll look to send the video record now. We'll send out the slides as well tomorrow, and then we'll follow up with the plan for the next webinar. But thanks everyone for joining us, and yeah, have a great week.
Thanks everyone. Thanks guys.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All the best.
Well done, fellas. Good job. See you later.
Good boy.
Cheers, George. Cheers, Lloyd. Cheers,
Cheers.
Ronnie.
Cheers,
Cheers,
guys.
Nick.
No problems. Take care.
All the
Bye-bye.
best.